The Appalachian area is comprised of 13 eastern states covering 205,000 square miles of rugged, mountainous terrain. It stretches from New York to Mississippi, with West Virginia being the only state totally encased in the area. When this region was first settled, the immigrants had to travel over the Appalachian mountain range with only what they could carry or haul by wagons. They would make furniture and other wooden items that were necessary and functional.
Is making our candles for the whole year ever a job? We need around 400 candles just for our small log cabin. We could use more, but they are so hard to make that we just go to bed earlier. We have to get up very early anyway. You know, we have to take care of the livestock. The milk cow needs to be fed and milked. The chickens and guineas just run all over the place eating bugs, so they don't need much care. The pigs need slopped. We have several pigs because they don't take much room and are easy to raise back in this holler. Sometimes we let them run in the woods to eat acorns. They love acorns. We don't often have a beef cow because they need lots of room and grass. Grass don't grow good under trees. We don't want to cut the trees because the hillside will slip away. We always slaughter a big old fat hog or a steer, not the milk cow, mind you, in the fall. We use every last little bit of the animal. We don't waste nothing. Most of the meat is cured in the smokehouse, but some is pickled. There ain't nothing better than pickled pig's feet. Even horns are used to make powder horns to carry our black powder when we go hunting for varmints. The tallow or fat is rendered, and any foreign objects like tendons or bone fragments are discarded. We don't let the fat get too hot or it'll burn and be ruined, but cook it long enough to get all the water out. Otherwise, it will turn rancid and have a rotten meat smell. Beef tallow works well for our candles, but let me tell you, pork fat candles stink to high heaven. We heard that deer tallow is good, but when the woods were all timbered, the deer left. I sure wish we could afford beeswax, but it's too expensive. Only people who live down in the valley can afford them. They have the good farms and the good paying jobs. Our tapered candles aren't very bright and don't last long. They smoke pretty bad too. I've heard tell of candles made from whale fat, but I don't reckon there are many whales around here. Rumor has it that there are candles being made from stuff called paraffin. They say that the candles will burn forever and are cheap because the paraffin is made from coal. There is plenty of cheap coal around here. I might just order some from the general store the next time I go to town in 5 or 6 months. The tallow candle was written by Hans Christian Andersen in the 1820s, but not discovered until 2012. This is an excerpt from the story. There once was a big wax candle which knew its own importance quite well. I am born of wax and molded in a shape, it said. I give better light and burn longer than other candles. My place is in a chandelier or on a silver candlestick. That must be a lovely existence, said the tallow candle. I am only made of tallow, but I comfort myself with the thought that it's always a little better than being a farthing dip. That is only dipped twice, and I am dipped 8 times to get my proper thickness. I am content. It is certainly finer and more fortunate to be born of wax instead of tallow, but one does not settle one's own place in this world. You are placed in the big room in the glass chandelier. I remain in the kitchen, but that is also a good place. From there the whole house gets its food. Scarcely was the word spoken when all the wax candles were fetched, but the tallow candle also went with them. A lady there took it in her dainty hand and carried it out to the kitchen. A little boy stood there with a basket, which was filled with potatoes. 2 or 3 apples also found their way there. The good lady gave all this to the poor boy. "There is a candle for you as well, my little friend," she said. "Your mother sits and works till late in the night. She can use it." And so it was laid in the basket under the lid, and the boy went away with it. "Where shall I go now?" thought the candle. "I shall go to poor people and perhaps not even get a brass candlestick, while the wax candle sits in silver and sees all the grand people. How lovely it must be to shine for the grand people. But it was my lot to be tallow and not my way." So the candle came to poor people, a widow with 3 children, in a little low room right opposite the rich house. "God bless the good lady for her gift," said the mother. "What a lovely candle that is. It can burn till late in the night." And then the candle was lighted. The little ones went to bed, got a kiss, and fell asleep at once, and the mother sat and sewed late into the night to get the means of support for them and for herself. And over from the big house the lights shone and the music sounded. The stars shone over all the houses, the rich and over the poor, equally clear and blessed. "This has been a really delightful evening," thought the tallow candle. "I wonder if the wax candles had it any better in the silver candlestick."
This is Jerill Vance with the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. Today we're coming from Cabell County, West Virginia, and our guest is Rebecca Mazzella. And today we're talking about candle making. And Becky, it's my understanding you've made candles?
Oh yes, I've made plenty of candles, but I want to thank you for inviting me.
Well, we appreciate you giving us your time. It's my understanding that the old way of making candles, they actually used fat from animals.
That's right. That was one of their, the main staple in the candle was animal fat. And then also they would use beehives, but without the bees.
Yeah.
Once the honey was gone.
The beeswax.
The beeswax, right.
Yes.
The wax from the bees.
And they would take this fat, or the beeswax or the wax, and they would melt that in a double boiler. And then how would they get the wick?
Well, usually it was, in building up the wick, is that they would wrap the bottom to have weight so it would go down, because they usually used a great big vat to melt the wax and stuff in the beef fat and stuff. And then they would get the string and tie the base onto a rock so that you would have that weight, and then wrap it around a stick or a branch from the tree.
Okay.
And then they would put like maybe 2 or 3 or even 4
on one branch.
One branch.
So they would make multiples at a time. And you mentioned something to me earlier. You said it was common for the men to be involved in this.
Exactly. It wasn't just a woman's trade.
And what was the reasoning for that?
Because it got heavy.
Very heavy.
Very heavy, and building the fire, keeping the fire going.
Sure.
But once you start building and the candles start getting bigger, they're not all that lightweight.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Becky, we appreciate you taking the time to show us how to make candles. And if we can go back to the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop, I'll show you how we made this candle box. It doesn't matter if you're using hand tools or machinery. In woodworking, you need to know how to safely use your equipment. When creating dust, make certain you have good cross ventilation, a dust collection system, or a dust respirator. If you're applying a finish, please use a NIOSH approved respirator for that particular chemical. A good set of hearing protection is necessary to protect your hearing. And of course, eye protection is a must. Welcome to the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. I'm Jerill Vance, your host. We just saw how to make candles. So now we're going to look at how to store candles. Historically, they would have stored the candles in a dark, cool place so they wouldn't degrade. and that usually would have been a candle box. This is a typical candle box, and as you can see, it's very awkward to pick up because it sits flat and it takes two hands to pick it up. They're rectangular in shape. This corner has box joints, and of course it has the sliding lid. So what I did, I redesigned the candle box to make it a little bit more user-friendly. Here you can see you can pick it up with one hand, and in order to do that, I incorporated some feet in the bottom, so the little recessed area gives you a nice place to grab a hold of it with one hand. Instead of the box joints on this one, I've made a rabbet joint. A very nice strong joint. And as you can see, it also has a sliding lid, and it has a carved thumb latch to make it easy to open and close. This design also incorporated a little match compartment here, so you can store matches in here, or you can also store a modern butane pocket lighter in there. This particular box is maple, mineral stained maple, and it has a oil varnish blend finish, which is a very nice finish. On this box, I used quarter sawn sycamore, and as you can see, it has mitered corners, and the mitered corner is reinforced with a contrasting spline. Exposed, this is walnut. And this lid also slides. And the unique thing about this, on the front, I cut the top off to allow access for the drawer to slide in. That piece that I cut off, I inverted and put on top of the lid, and that creates the thumb hold to pull it up. And that gives you a nice clean flat front, so the box looks a little different. This has a milk paint finish, which you just mix with hot water and apply it. Plans and instructions are available on how to build this candle box at my website, AppalachianHeritageWoodshop.com. Okay, now to make the candle box, I'm going to use the dado blade in a table saw here. I've got two blades in there which are 1/4 inch wide. I've got it set a 1/4 inch from the fence. This will be the groove for the top lid that slides in and out. So I need to do that on the front and back and the two side pieces. Always use a push block and be aware of where your hands are in relation to the saw blade. Now that created a groove for the top. Now I need to create a groove for the bottom. And because these will have legs cut out, I need to readjust the fence because this groove will be 1 1/4 inches up from the bottom. Cutting the dado grooves requires a push pad. Make sure your hands are not in harm's way. So that's completed the grooves for the lid and the bottom. So now I need to do the rabbet joints on the front and back corners where the end pieces fit. Now I just installed some extra chippers on my dado blade. I've got a stop block set up, and what I'm going to do is cut a rabbet in the end of the front and back pieces. Same depth. I like using a miter gauge with an extended fence for stability. It makes it easy to cut the rabbets. This candle box is designed with legs, so I've made a template to mark where I will cut out the recess. So now it's just a matter of cutting those out here on the bandsaw. Because this is a fairly sharp cut right here, I'm going to make some relief cuts first and then cut the curve. Make sure the guard is properly set on the bandsaw before beginning. Start slow when you enter. Make your cuts slow and follow the line. Make sure your hands are 3 inches away from the blade at all times. Make sure the blade is sized for the radius you are cutting. The tighter the radius, the smaller the blade needed. Okay, I've got my oscillating spindle sander set up with a 3/4 inch spindle in it. And what I'm going to do is sand where I just sawed the legs. I like using oscillating spindle sander to remove the saw blade marks. This hard maple is hard to sand, so it helps to have a eraser to remove the gum that sticks to the spindle. Keep a firm grip on the block of wood. Make sure your hands don't get too close to the abrasive. And there you have the edge sanded. This candle box is designed with a little compartment to store your matches. So I've got a jig built to use with the router so I can route a groove to put the front and bottom of the match compartment on here. So I'm using double stick tape to secure this. Got to make sure it's stuck on there real good so it won't come off. Now, as you can see, the router bit will follow right along through here, and I want to be sure and stop when I get to this groove and not take out the top section. Okay, I've got my plunge router set up. I've got a bushing in there which will follow the template, and I've already preset the depth, so now it's just a matter of routing out the groove. Now you can see there's a groove. The template is reversible, so now I'll just turn it over and put my double-sided tape on the other side, ready to route the other one. Always wait for the router bit to stop before you remove it. Now when I routed the groove for the match holder, the inside corner is rounded over, so I need to take a chisel and square that off. Okay, now I'm ready to cut the piece that will go in there. And I want to cut the front first so you won't see the seam. Okay, now I've measured where I need to cut. I've got my stop block set up, and I need to cut 2 of these. Now I need to rip this to the right width. For ripping narrow, thin stock, I use a custom-made stub splitter. So now you can see how the box goes together. Now what I want to do is size the bottom, and it fits into the groove, so it is the same width as the sides, but I have to allow just a little bit for expansion, so I'm going to make it about 1/8 of an inch shorter than the side. For the top, it needs to fit into the top groove, so it's going to be longer than the groove is here. So I'll measure that after I get the bottom cut. Now I've marked where I need to cut this. I've got my table saw set up and the guard in place, so now I'm going to cross cut this. This is the bottom. Now the lid needs to stick out to give us a handle so we can open and close the lid. So it needs to be, for now, I'm going to make it about 2 inches longer. And then I'll cut it to shape. The front, I need to cut the top off of the front here. That will allow the lid to slide in and out. So I've got the fence set up so it will cut off that top piece. So now you can see with it just dry fitted how the lid slides in. So what I need to do now is put a raised edge around the 2 sides and the back. And I'm going to do that here at the router table. I have a raised panel bit set up, and I'm going to do this in a couple different passes. I like using a vertical raised panel bit in this application. I think it's safer and easier than a horizontal raised panel bit. When you're routing, you want to always route the end grain first. So if you have any tear out, it'll get cleaned up when you route the long grain. So now I'm ready to assemble and glue the candle box together. You need a good flat surface in order to do this. And remember, the bottom floats, and of course the top slides in and out. So those don't get glued. So the first thing I'm going to do is put glue in the little groove where the match holder goes, because if I don't put it in there now, once I start to assemble it, I can't get the glue in there. Because this is a tight friction fit, it takes very little glue. Too much and you're just going to have a lot of squeeze out. And you got to make certain you don't have any squeeze out in the groove where the lid is going to slide. Now I want to put the front of the match cover in first. That way if I get any glue squeeze out up into the groove where the lid slides, I can go ahead and clean it up now. Do not put any glue in the bottom groove, and then fit the bottom into the groove, and then you're ready to attach the other side. Now I can slide the bottom of the match compartment in. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on the edge of it so it will adhere to the front of the match compartment. Then the back goes on. And now the front. Now I want to apply some clamps to make sure this is good and tight. So now it's just a matter of letting the glue set up. As you can see, the lid fits in the top of the box. I've already shaped the handle of the box and rounded over the edge. So now what I'm going to do is put a little thumb hole in here to make it easier to open. And I do that with carving chisels. So I've marked where I wanted the thumb latch to be. And now it's just a matter of going around and carving it. I'll be using some carving chisels and some bench chisels. Now what I'm doing is just slowly peeling back more wood on a taper, which will give the thumb a place to grab a hold of the lid. This hard maple is really hard, so you have to have some good sharp chisels. Make sure the lid is secure while you're carving it. Here I have it against a fence while I'm carving. The most important part is that it be comfortable. There we go. Thanks for watching the Appalachian Heritage Woodshop. For more information on today's project, go to AppalachianHeritageWoodshop.com. Be proud of your Appalachian heritage.
The Appalachian Heritage Woodshop is brought to you by Christian Internet Services, common sense internet marketing and web design. Our internet marketing commissions are based on results. Robinson & McElwee, thinking business, practicing law. Heritage Farm Museum and Village. Experience the past, appreciate today, dream for the future.